Recording in
Hi, Sydney. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, that's good. I don't know. I guess everybody is late, so I'm just here waiting for persons to join.
All right, no problem.
Okay, but did you driving to it? Sound like you driving.
Yes, no.
Okay, okay. So I gotta find somebody else to go through chapter 10 with us. I think it's only you and Robert left that haven't covered the chapter. So
Oh,
I guess we'll see who else joins. So drive carefully, please. That's what matters, okay?
yes, no.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. So Sydney, you on your data, you have like a lot of data, if you driving.
Yeah, on my daughter. I mean, I would say a lot, but I thought the class would have started on time, so I didn't mind. On my daughter.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I only see Clinton here now, and so it looks like we gonna start at like 10 past 6. So if you want sign out to save your data, you could sign out and then I'll start at 10 minutes past 6.
Okay, no problem. I get the
Right.
point.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
Clinton, how you doing today? Clinton, you there?
Yes, ma'am. I am well. So. I may have to leave a little early today.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, because Sydney was
Yeah.
driving home, but he had signed in. So I told him, don't waste his data. I told him to sign out because it looks like we won't start till like 10 past 6. So okay, we have more persons coming in now. Okay, good. One second. We'll start at 10 past 6.
Good day, hello.
Hi, good day. We're gonna start at 10 past because it was only me and Sydney for a while and he was on his data, so I told him to sign out and we'll start at 10 past. Okay?
Okay, no problem.
But how you doing today?
Um, doing good.
Everybody having a rough day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, I just have a lot of personal issues. I have an autistic son, and we're having some challenges with his school. So that's my situation there. And they calling out for a lot of money. So
Okay, this Glenwood, eh?
no, he what is thing called? Scholars. It's a different. It's just a regular school, but they usually assist me with him because it's a regular school setting. But his behavior now is changing a bit because he's going through puberty. So yeah, so he needs a little bit more intervention.
Okay,
So
and are
he has,
you go ahead.
yeah. No, I'm a part of, I mean, like
Reach?
regional.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
but it's a hype, to be honest.
oh, okay. Because I have a friend who has an autistic daughter, and
Mm-hmm.
he experienced the same thing when, like, she went through puberty.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he had her at Blairwood, but of course, they subsidized some of the payments, and then it got
Mm-hmm.
out of control too with paying. And I think he was getting disability from NIB. Have you applied for disability from NIB?
No.
Okay, so that would help. Also, the school in Carmichael Road through the corner where Inland Revenue is.
Valentine.
Daventines, right. So
Uh-huh.
Daventines has a special ed section that
Yeah.
after Blairwood, he couldn't just afford Blairwood any longer. He
Mm-hmm.
put her in Daventines and she did very well there. And
Okay.
then her mom moved to the States and
Mm-hmm.
she now has her in a program where she does like horseback riding, swimming, and so it
Yeah.
keeps she is very active. So, I if Reach, you don't find the support in Reach, perhaps, go to
Mm-hmm.
Reach International and
Okay.
it may give you some ideas. In the last talks I had with him, he actually tried medical marijuana with her,
Yeah.
and that helped tremendously. So
Okay. Yeah.
you want
I'm
look into
considering.
that as well and see if that would help.
Okay, I will.
Yeah.
So with medicine, that's it as an avenue I wish to try, but his dad, we're not together. So his dad has opposing views than I do. So it's difficult, making decisions that I want to do when their dad is against.
Okay.
So that's a difficulty there. But it's definitely something I'm still trying. Like I said, I'm probably looking at probably calling a meeting, like doing like a consultation and getting an understanding more of the options that he has medically to see if that can work, see if that can open dad's eye a bit. Other than that, uh, when it comes to the school, he's done Blairwood, he's done Seahawks, he's done a lot of the high cost institutions. Um, but right now it's like, okay, trying to see like put him in a regular school and just put the therapies on the side, you know?
Yeah, they
So
they
that,
that's why
mhm,
they do it at, even though Galvantines is primary, they don't want them to mix with the high school. The high schools are a little bit out of control. So it's a primary school, but they have that section for them. So, they
yeah,
would be safe and everything. And it was a really good program for her.
yeah. You know, with
Yeah.
my son, he is now, let me tell you, so he is 12. He'll be 13 in 2 weeks, but he is in grade 6.
Okay.
So Valentine's they go up to grade 6. So the window for that, because again, dad didn't want him to go in a government school.
No, what I'm
And,
saying is, even though Galvantines is primary, I'm
mhm.
almost certain she stayed there until she was 16.
Okay, I'm wondering because I know they
Yeah.
go up to grade 6. I
Yeah,
don't know if
it's
they go.
they only keep it there because
Oh,
the the high schools, the government high schools are a bit more dangerous.
Yeah,
And so
because
they keep it, you
I
know,
understand.
yes, so there wouldn't be no incidences with the, you know,
Yeah, see, but then if
regular
it's like,
government schools and the problems that they have, because the primary schools are pretty safe. It's when they get out the mid schools,
yeah,
junior and senior is where they have a lot of the problems. So I think for
yeah,
a safety reason, they keep it at Gavitas, not that
yeah.
they are only primary.
Okay, I understand. Because then
Yeah.
they do have it to Doris Johnson. They do have a sign to Anatole Rogers. You know, those are
Oh,
the
okay,
schools. So they go
okay,
higher. But again, they teach them more like life skills and stuff like that. But like
okay,
my son, he's high functioning, so he can learn. He's a brilliant boy. He was the spelling bee champion. He was the debate champion. So he's really, really good. But it's just that sometimes he screams out or he'll even use inappropriate language. So like little things that's turning into big things now, you know, because again, it's causing other students to be disrupted, which causing
okay,
now, you know, the school to say, okay, he needs some attention,
okay.
more attention.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
so
it's
just do
something
some research. And
researching.
if you want me to get the name of the center, I mean, it's in Orlando where she lives now. And
Okay.
because she is like 19 years old now. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
they had a lot of problems with puberty and stuff like that. But I mean, you know, I tried to talk him through it. I said, isn't this a normal thing with any teenage person would go through puberty? It's just that, you know, when we are a teenager, we hide it from our parents. She
Yeah.
doesn't know that she should hide it from her parents. You know what I mean? Right. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So
But
she
what
was
you
kind
just
of very open with it, you know?
okay.
Yeah.
Because what you open my mind to is NIB. Because I think I spoke to someone yesterday about it, and they were saying that she bought NIB for her son. I think he has like asthma, so she said she gets some disability or something for him in that regard. So
Yeah.
I'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, and they
'Cause-
get this their child is they call it selective mutation, or meaning she's mute, like she goes to school, does her work and everything, she just never talks,
okay.
you know, and they get NIB for that. And I mean, she is very functionable, but she just does
Right.
not speak.
Just a matter that she doesn't speak.
Yeah.
All right.
And she has the like the old OECD where she cleans the entire house from top to bottom. She cooks and everything, but she does
Yeah.
not speak. Yeah.
Okay. I'll
Yeah.
try. I'll try
Okay,
because I
try,
really
and I'll ask my friend about the name of the center in Orlando. They may just have a good website where you could get information.
more information.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
And look into the medical marijuana, just do the research. So at least you would have, you know, some options.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Very good. Okay, Sydney, I was trying to stall a little while to get you back in, so I'm glad you're here. I hope that you made it home safe and you ain't on your data no more. You made it home safe? Not quite, eh? Oh, sorry? Oh, okay. All right. All right, guys. So I know most of y'all, we want to talk about the midterm exam, but I'm sorry that we have to delay that until next week. Okay. But most of you would have gotten your grades back, and we will talk about it in depth next week. Now, if you want to talk about do you feel like you had sufficient information to be successful? Were there any surprises? Are there any comments? Clinton, Bethel, Krista, Vinny? No? No comments? No concerns? It's fine. We can wait till next week.
No comment, Miss Bullard.
You all sound like you're ready to fight with Bullard. No comment. Okay, but do we feel like we had sufficient information?
I feel like we had sufficient information, but you know, I emailed you. I tell you what my struggle was.
Okay. Yeah, I understand. I understand. Okay, Vanique, what about you? You felt like you had sufficient information?
I felt like it was sufficient, but I feel like I prepared. For me, I focused more on chapter 8 because you said that majority would be on chapter 8. So I was expecting like the definitions and stuff to be the short answer questions. but it ended up being about counseling and all that, and I
No.
really didn't focus on that.
Oh, okay. Okay, but everything that we covered in the review was there.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Everything, when I rewatched the review class,
Mhm.
and you know, and then I take the exam, everything what we talk about that day in the class was on the exam, you know. Even though at one point Miss Buller did say, you know, a chunk of it, a lot can come from chapter 8, the whole review class was on it. That's what I noticed.
Okay.
So
Okay, so we'll go into details for if next week if you have more detailed questions that you want to talk about. Okay, but overall, I think persons did okay, you know. The grades were average grades, and then it's fine. It shows that at least you're halfway there. Okay, and so we may have some work to do to get to the final. One or two of you got extremely high grades, so then I felt it was too easy. So yeah, we'll work on that. But I am overall pleased. You know, there are one or two things that we can work on, but I think that everybody's getting the gist of it. Okay, and like I said, we'll go into detail next week about that. Okay, so mentoring. We're more than we did the midterm, so we're halfway there. Okay, and so let me just put up the agenda to make sure all of us are still on the same page and we know what to expect in the coming weeks. And so again, the agenda isn't written in stone. If we need to spend some time on a specific topic, that's fine. I do hope that we can continue on where we have somebody from, you know, to go over each chapter. I know we didn't discuss chapter 10, and I think it's just Sydney and Robert now that haven't covered a chapter. So hopefully they'll cover one or two of them, and then I guess we'll have 3 chapters left. And so if anybody wants to volunteer for 5, 6, 2, or 7, just let me know, or even chapter 10 today, just let me know. So this is the agenda. So far, so good for me. I am pleased, and normally we're on the right track to being successful. I know some of you weren't pleased with your overall grade, but I think that the grades were satisfactory. Okay, 1 or 2 of them were excellent, but overall, I think it was satisfactory. Okay, yeah, any questions about the agenda? Are we comfortable with where we're at? Week 8? Questions? Any, you're there? Hello?
No questions.
Okay, I just want to make sure we on the same page. Okay, so I want everybody to tell me now, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks before we have to present. And please be reminded of when your mentoring has to be submitted, so there are no problems. I know 1 or 2 of you did not submit in the first instance, and we had some problems. So the mentoring, now we've passed, successfully completed, and I was very, I mean, persons did exceptionally well in their commencement speech project, and that's why we only had like 1 or 2 questions on the midterm. And so that's why the focus was on chapter 8, and you know, want to do excuse me, other chapters. And so now on Tuesday, November 29th, and today is November the 2nd. And so we really don't want the time to run up on us. And then for those of you that celebrate Thanksgiving, that's Thanksgiving week, so y'all will be preparing your ham and turkey. So we have 1, 2, 3, and just a few days before we have to submit. So I'd like everybody to give an overview of, you know, who they chose and how far they are, if they've started, or if they could try to cram, because it's supposed to be over 6 weeks. But you know, if you're gonna do it over 4, I just want to ensure that you I've selected your person and that you are starting. Okay, so Lanique, let us know who you selected.
I selected a young lady at my work, and we said it's going good so far. I mean, what we did is we set a, she has a goal. She has 3 things she'd like to work on at work for her position, her desk, her job. And so I helping her go through giving her, I guess, tools on how she could better work towards these goals. It's mostly like she wants to not feel overwhelmed. She wants to catch up on the work that she is behind in, and not let customers overwhelm her or like get her to the point where she starts snapping at them. So I just given her little tools to try progress in those areas. That's it.
Okay. Okay, great. Very good. Krista?
Everyone. Okay, so for me, still brainstorming, trying to figure out which route I'll take, whether it be work, whether it be personal, or whether it be church. They're the only 3 places I go.
Okay. Okay, so now we on 4 weeks, so you will make that decision this week then.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, good. Okay, Vanique?
Hi. I think that I'm going to use my nephew. We've been talking for a while now. This is not something new. This would be an ongoing something. So I thought that it would be perfect to use for the presentation. I've been working with him for a few months now, actually. He had a situation that happened a few months ago. So ever since that situation, I've been kind of trying to be guidance for him. Just trying to steer him in the right path. So I'm going to use my nephew.
Okay. Okay, very good. And that's what we need, just Vanique, we're at 112 murders, and 98% of them are men. So I think there's a pandemic on our young men, right? And so
Yeah.
something really, really needs to happen, because
I feel like I hit a roadblock though, because I don't know, he don't really talk to me like that no more. He like a little iffy. I mean, I still just reach out to him, but I don't know if he's receptive.
So this chapter talks about communication, okay? And sometimes, but the people say that women can raise men, right? Is he your age or younger?
He's younger than me. I have him he's like 20. He's like 20 and I'm 29.
Oh, okay. Okay, because I was gonna tell you, like, you have to make yourself approachable, and then probably go in a space, like try it from a fun aspect first to make him receptive. Like if he plays video games, then you sit and play video games with him, and try and make it a fun activity, and then you build trust.
I feel like the trust is there. I just feel like he feels like his life is doomed because of the way that he was brought up. So it's tough to get him to see what life could be,
Okay.
So I don't know.
So he probably, I have a friend who just simply said, I give up on life. I need a depression or what have you. So immediately, in these groups, Miss Bullet don't even go with these groups most of the time. But what I found from these various groups is that they have those every morning. Somebody sends an inspirational message, and every morning I send it to her. Right, and I even read it for myself. And I think Lanique even mentioned this when she talked about her project. If you get that, 5 minutes of motivation in the morning, it helps you to start your day or meditate for a while. And so if you could fill him up with, I mean, not to make him sick, because the first Ms. Willis started off as being sick. All of these messages coming across my screen, but then now I have a purpose, and it's really helped her. And she said, it's my mindset. And she said, we listened to Les Brown together, where Les Brown said 98% of our thoughts are negative. And so you really have to fight your mind to think positively. So perhaps that may help, send him morning devotion, send him, encourage him to meditate. I would start with the Bible, and I would say, there were some things or some generational curses that could have been passed from family, and it's good to identify them and you can pray them away. So find some scriptures and then prove to him that, it's how you end, it's not how you start. And it's what you believe. That kind of way. And use people like Obama.
I know, I really, I get it, but I feel like every conversation that we have is like there's no hope. Like at one point he told me that, he feel like the only way he could live is if he go and move to the US and start fresh. I don't know. It's a lot.
Okay. So perhaps, Monique, you probably need to ask him to help you. Try that. I feel down and out, and ask him to send you the motivation. And then, you know what I mean? Try and get him to read it with you or something like that. See if he would be more inclined to help you than to get help. You know, that kind of way?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so pray about it.
Yeah.
If you feel there's a something that he needs to overcome, pray about it. Ask God to order your steps and say the right words that'll be appealing. Like I say, hopefully in this chapter, we as women, it talks about how men communicate versus how women communicate, and let's see if we can, that'll be helpful. But don't give up. And tell him you have this project to do for school, and so you really need him to help you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Good luck with that, Sydney.
Hey, yes, mom. I chose somebody from my church. Basically, kind of the same scenario as Phoenix, where I guess I guess he doesn't understand, how important education is, and things like that. So it's like just going day by day instead of having like an outline. So basically, just trying to steer him in the right direction, because the other day he decided to dump school, and just kind of making sure he has an understanding of how important certain things are and how necessary they are to have, no matter what you decide to do. It's kind of tough because some of the younger people feel like they're growing before they actually at that point. So it's a work in progress.
Right. And this will prepare you. I mean, I don't know if you have kids, but it will prepare you for when you have kids, because you can look forward to that. Them always thinking they know more than you. But also, I want you to think about, is he like 14 or 15 or around teenage years?
Yes, mom.
Okay. So think about, Sydney, when you was that age. Did you really take school seriously? Did you duck school once or twice? Miss Bullet duck school.
I actually did take school seriously. I wouldn't say scared to get trouble, but I always like to be like the top of the class.
Oh,
Was my
oh, you was okay. You was one of them. Okay, but let's
Yeah.
call it that class, right? And so what my whole point is, don't lead him in the right direction, but don't chastise him for doing things what regular 16-year-olds do. Now, of course, you don't want him to excessively duck school, but once or twice, that's kind of what teenage boys do. And let's find out what he doing when he ducking school. You know, hopefully it ain't drinking and smoking. Maybe it is to see a girl, but if it is to see a girl, then you need to start to talk to him about like protection and different stuff like that.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so good luck. Good luck. Okay, Clinton.
Okay, I chose my niece who comes from a one-parent home and who although she has a mother in her life, the mother isn't really focused on her and guiding her. So I chose because she's in the same age bracket as my daughter, and coming up, they were only 2 weeks apart at birth. So she's always been in my life closely, and I've always been somewhat of a guidance or a role model to her. So I chose to continue to be a role model to her, but just on a closer than we were before, I should say.
Okay, okay, very good, very good. And I just want to say, please remember to document it so you have enough information for your paper. Okay.
Okay. When you
Okay,
say
very-
documented, you mean sessions or
Yeah, yes, right.
Okay.
Remember now there are different categories, and I'll pull it up again. You want a paragraph on each of these, on the purpose, on how do you communicate, whether it's in person, by phone, or email, what were your topics, how you build trust, the process, the progress, and then feedback from your mentee. How do they feel about, being mentored?
Okay.
And did they
Okay.
find it to be valuable? And then did you find it to be valuable? Was it beneficial to both or one-sided?
Okay. So I just need a paragraph on each.
Yeah, on each of these.
Okay.
Okay. And anything else you
Mm.
want to add that would be relevant? Okay, for the persons who do persons at work, you can answer some of these
I have to
questions.
look back at this again, Miss Bullet, because I went in it on the weekend and I only saw this portion here where it says document who you choose and why. And it was really related to, I got to look back at that.
No, yeah,
document
because this
again.
is at the top. That's the last page. So, yeah,
Yeah, I don't.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
I gotta
see
go
key
back and.
ingredients for mentoring and the due
Okay.
dates and when you would present in class.
Okay.
Okay. And then it says read pages 21 and 22 on mentoring others. Okay? Okay. Okay, Robert?
Good day, everyone.
Good day.
Okay, so I selected to mentor one of my little brothers. When we were living together, that was, I would say, maybe years ago, maybe 5, 6 years ago. I guess the relationship and the communication skills was there. However, we would have drifted apart, and in terms of how his life structure is going, I wouldn't say it's going down, but it's more like he still needs someone to guide him in the right path. So that's who I choose, just to really get him on the right path of life, so forth. So I'm
Okay.
gonna, yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. And remember too, to make it fun. You don't just
Yes,
want
ma'am.
to like lecture and say you wrong, you're wrong. Remember the sandwich approach? Tell them,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, and make it fun. Like you could play basketball or video games or something that they like. Go into their comfort zone.
Yeah, but to me, it's a bit, I would say it's a bit more tedious when mentoring him, because he's kind of unique. You know, those kids would never used to come outside, stay inside, and don't really communicate. He's an anti-social person. So really and truly, he's finished school now, but don't have any friends or he don't communicate with anyone. So it's almost as if he's sometimes be like, what's the purpose of living? So it's kind of, I kind of trying to get him to understand the world and what's out there. But I guess, like you said, it goes through sessions and taking them out and helping them to interact with other persons. So just trying to guide them on that part.
Right. And nothing is wrong with being a introvert. It's just not the norm. And he sounds like a bit extreme. So read a bit on being an introvert. So you don't seem to like be offensive to him or thinking that being an extrovert is the only way.
Okay, so read on introvert, right?
Yeah, he's an introvert.
Okay, introvert.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay, you're welcome. You're welcome. Candace?
Good night. Good night. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, the person that I choose to mentor is it's a employee that works with us. She is younger than me. We talk on a regular basis, and she's the only child, and both of her parents died when she was around 6 or 7. So she sort of kind of looks up to me as a big sister. And I noticed that because since she came to the company, she seemed to cling to me. So during this time, I am going to try to steer her in the right direction in terms of whether it's school, her personal life, and stuff like that.
Okay. Okay, good. Very good. Very good. And also, like I said, try to make it fun, try to go in their space. And then there are a lot of civic organizations out there. And like I think I mentioned this, Lynn, would know in my other classes, I give bonus points for persons that attend. And you could perhaps look up a Toastmasters meeting, a Kiwanis meeting, or what's the other club? Toast or Rotary Club meeting. And they have them, all over Facebook. And I think most of them are still online if you don't have time to go in person. And I think it would be a good experience, especially for those who are mentoring employees or family members who they want to, get back to school and get on the right track. And that is just where corporate Bahamas hangs out, and that's where they network. Okay, so if you're looking for somewhere positive or something different to introduce them to, then you can try that as well. Okay, so very good. Sounds very exciting. I'm looking forward to that class when you present. Okay, so thank you all for participating and sharing. Okay, for those who came in a little late, I said that next week, when we meet and talk about chapter 5, we'll go in depth with the midterm and discuss any issues or any comments or any questions that you may have. Okay, so this week we are going to cover chapter 10, and I only have 2 persons that have not assisted with the reading so far, and that's Robert and Sydney. So we do have 4 or 5 chapters left, and so we're going to need 3 volunteers as well. And so if anybody wants to volunteer, could you let me know, please, for chapter 10? And it talks about communication. Or y'all just want me to select Sydney or Robert right now for chapter 10, and then you'll volunteer next week. Everybody quiet. Nobody.
I agree, Ms. Bullet.
Okay, very good, Sydney. Thank you for that. Okay, very good. Okay, so chapter 10 talks about the communication, and a lot of people don't take it seriously, the way that we communicate. A lot of people think that communicating effectively is speaking your mind or saying however you feel. And then some people feel that communicating is just being politically correct, right? And so you could be fake as possible, but you're diplomatic and you're politically correct, okay? And so chapter 10 covers communication facts. It talks about how men communicate versus how women communicate. It talks about the grapevine. And luckily, there's a positive side of the grapevine, not just a negative side. So we'll learn about the grapevine and the positive effects of it. Then it talks about the communication process. There are 7 parts: the sender, encoding, the message, the channel, decoding, receiver, and face and feedback. And they go through that entire process, because sometimes what you say could be misconstrued and you get feedback because it's not necessarily, you know, what you meant, but the person might be offended or feels attacked. Okay. And then we are going to talk about verbal and non-verbal, because a lot of times people stand up there and say, well, I didn't say anything. You didn't have to say anything. With that expression on your face. And because Miss Pauletta has that problem, Miss Pauletta have to count to 50, not even 10. I have to count to 50 because my face and my eyes and everything, my expression, or sometimes I have to excuse myself and go to the bathroom where I can't control, you know, like they say, you can't put on that poker face, right? And so we want to be careful of, you know, our body language. We immediately roll eyes, you know, that's like a reflex. We immediately roll our eyes. So we want to be cognizant of our body language. We want to give feedback and we want to be honest. And boy, you know, right now we live in a community where if you're honest, you're an outcast, unfortunately. A lot of people aren't ethical. They don't have integrity. They don't bring that foundation from home, and then they don't read the mission, vision, and goals, and they do not read the code of conduct, which says, when you want Scotiabank property, this is our expectation of you. You know, they don't read. So a lot of people lack honesty, and most people who lie, they can't even lie good. So you see right through them. Okay, so we want to make sure that, you know, in the end, we are all human beings, and we are all sinners, but, you know, we have so high expectations of sinners. I just don't understand it, you know, and so we want to get to a point where, you know, we realize that we are human, we will make mistakes. We want to be honest about the mistakes we've made, and then communicate truthfully an action plan, and be remorseful. Okay, so we will get right into chapter 10, and we will start on what is communication, so we can ensure that we understand what communication is, and then the communication process and methods of communication. And so let me just tell Sydney, you have the version 8 book, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you'll start reading from page 268. What is communication?
Okay. What is communication? Communication involves the transfer of meaning. If no information or ideas have been conveyed, communication is not taking place. However, for communication to be successful, the meaning must not only be imparted, but also understood. A memo addressed to us in a foreign language cannot be considered a communication until we have it translated. Therefore, communication is transference and understanding of meaning. Finally, good communication is often erroneously defined by the communicator as agreement instead of clarity of understanding. If someone disagrees with us, many of us assume the person just didn't fully understand our position. We may define good communication as having someone accept our views, but a person can clearly understand what you mean and not agree with what you say. In fact, a supervisor concluded that a lack of communication is the cause of a long-term conflict between two employees. May find there's plenty of effective communication going on. Each fully understands the other's position. The problem is one of equating effective communication with agreement.
Okay, and let me just give you an example that comes to mind. A few years ago, when Royal Bank said that, you know, we want to save money, and so they outsourced the IT department to India. And boy, was that a tragedy. I think some banks now are just trying to do that. And there was definitely a language barrier. So you would call and say, my passport printer isn't working. First of all, they're all the way in India, but you have to send a ticket and call them on the phone and explain to them what's going on for them to send somebody out of the Bahamas, which was definitely not an effective process. But you had to explain to them at least 5 times because they said, passbook? What did you say? Which printer isn't working? I said, my passbook printer isn't working. What's a passbook printer? And it was just, has anybody else had that experience where there's been a language barrier and it affected their work? So it meant that we didn't have the tools necessary to complete our work, because when the system went down, oh my God, it was crazy. And anybody have a language barrier problem at work? Because of course we work in these diverse institutes now.
We do, because our call center at Scotia is outsourced. It's all over the place, Trinidad, Jamaica, all of that. So when customers locally call them, they can't understand what we say or what the request the customer is making. So when the customer visits the branch, they get incorrect information and information that doesn't really tie into the transaction they want to do.
Right. Okay. And again, all of this is because of communication. Yes, Kristen, we see your comment. Yes, because of communication. Okay, so go ahead with the process, message, encoding, the message, the channel, the coding, and feedback. And of course, we know that that's popular for the final exam, right? So please let's highlight that. What is communication? The transference and understanding of meaning, and then the communication process. Okay, go on, Sydney.
The communication process. Communication can be thought of as a process of flow. Communication problems occur when there are deviations or blockages in that flow. Before communication can take place, a purpose expressed as a message to be conveyed is needed. It passes between a source, which is the sender, and a receiver. The message is encoded, converted to symbolic form, and is passed by way of some medium or channel to the receiver, who retranslates or decodes the message initiated by the sender. The result is transferring meaning from one person to another. Exhibit 10-1 depicts the communication process. This model is made up of 7 parts: 1, the sender; 2, encoding; 3, the message; 4, the channel; 5, decoding; 6, the receiver; and 7, feedback. The sender initiates a message by encoding thought. 3 primary conditions affect the encoding message are skill, knowledge, and the social cultural system. Communication depends on the writing skills. If writers don't have the requisite writing skills, their messages will not reach readers in the form desired. One communicative success includes speaking, reading, listening, and reasoning skills as well. Restricted in our communication activity by the extent of our knowledge on a particular topic, we cannot communicate what we don't know. Should our knowledge be too extensive, it's possible that our receiver will not understand our message. The amount of knowledge the sender holds about their subject will affect the message they seek to transfer. Finally, as knowledge influences our behavior, so does our position in the social cultural system in which we exist. Beliefs and values, all part of our culture, act to influence us as a communicative source. The message is the actual.
Sydney, let me just interject. Let me just interject there. And I always encourage persons when they read a book, when they read the newspaper, find out who the author is. You'll be very surprised whether it's a political writing in the newspaper. If you look at which party they support, you will see that that person leans more towards that party. So there may be some biases. So you want to read with an open mind. Or if there's a particular sexual preference, you will see that that person or religious belief belief, you would see that they lean heavily on their beliefs. And a very good example that I always use is CNN and Fox News. Fox supports the Republicans, so everything that the Republicans do is great, and what the Democrats do is awful and they wrong and they should go to jail, and vice versa with CNN. CNN is more support of the Democrat Party, and so they bash the Republicans and they praise the Democrats. Okay, so it just depends on where you get your information from, and a lot of persons, they just pay attention to, oh, I'm a Democrat, I'm gonna follow CNN, and they forget the biases. Okay, you would need to follow both if you're gonna go off what the media says and you know, write books and papers and what have you. Okay, so that's very important to research the authors, okay, before you go and make your own opinion. Okay, go ahead, Sydney, the message.
The message is the actual physical product from the senses encoding. When we speak, speech is the message. When we write, the writing is the message. When we paint, the picture is the message. When we gesture, the movements of our arms, the expressions on our face are the message. Our messages is affected by the code or group of symbols we use to transfer meaning, the content of the message itself, and the decisions that we make selecting and arranging both codes and content. The channel is the medium through which the message travels. It is selected by the sender, who must determine which channel is formal and which one is informal. Formal channels are established by the organization and transmit messages pertaining to the job-related activities of members. They traditionally follow the authority network within the organization. Personal or social messages typically follow the informal channel on the other. The receiver is the object to whom the message is directed. They must translate message symbols into an understandable form. This is the decoding of the message. Just as the encoder was limited by their skill, attitudes, knowledge, and social cultural system, the receiver is equally restricted. The sender must be skillful in writing or speaking. The receiver must be skillful in reading and listening, and both must be able to reason. One's knowledge, attitude, and cultural background influences one's ability to receive just as they do with the ability to send. The final link in the communication process is the feedback loop. Feedback is the check on how successful we have been in transferring our messages as originally intended. It determines whether understanding has been achieved.
Okay, thank you, Sydney. And so information received by the sender from a receiver regarding a message that was sent. Okay, and 9 times out of 10, if that feedback is negative, then they automatically assume that you misunderstand or something's wrong with you, or they take offense. Okay, we have to try and practice not taking offense, and if the person truly didn't understand, we should excuse ourselves or apologize and say, okay, maybe that came across wrong. Let me, this is what I mean. But people tend to, like to take the malicious route. Oh, Miss Bullet, but you said this, and I try to explain. It doesn't matter what I said. What matters is I didn't want to offend you. I am trying to correct myself, and this is what I intended on saying. And so people either take that or reject, and they go off and say, oh, Miss Bullet slipped. She know exactly what she was trying to say. So let's move away from that negative tone. Let's move away from believing if somebody says, you received that message incorrectly, that you did indeed, our mindsets really need to change. Okay, and especially with supervisors when there's a conflict. Nothing in this world can tell us that Miss Bullet just didn't mean what she said. Okay, so let's be careful of that. Okay, so the book goes on to talk about the methods of communication, and it says supervisors participate in 2 types of communication, and one is formal communication that addresses task-related issues and tends to follow the organization's authority chain, and then informal communication. This moves in any direction, it skips authority levels, and is likely to satisfy social needs as it is to facilitate task accomplishment. So this almost like the grapevine, right? No authority, people just saying how they feel. Okay, and so the book goes on to ask us, how do we communicate orally? Okay, so go ahead and read that, Sydney. How in fact, no, I really only want to point out and how we communicate orally. Normally, we talk to we have little huddles. We talk to our staff each day. The book says, as a supervisor, you rely heavily on oral communication. Even if you have to chastise this employee or tell them that they did something wrong, normally you start with that verbal warning first. Okay, so examples are when you meet one-to-one with an employee, where you give a speech or there's a meeting. It says, today's supervisors are becoming increasingly aware that oral communication not only is an effective means for quickly conveying a message, but has positive symbolic value as well. In contrast, a memo or electronic message, the spoken word is more personal. It conveys more intimacy and caring. Okay? And so some people would go sit to their desk and say, Lanique, I realized that you was late from lunch today. Please, follow the code of conduct in regards to timeliness, right? And of course, Lanique will say, Miss Bullitt really had to send me an email. Like, she couldn't just walk up to me and say that, or like, let me apologize for being late. She really had to put it in writing, right? So you want to make sure that people don't feel like you writing them up right away. Okay, and so your organization should have a process, a verbal warning form first, and then if it continues, then a written warning. And then I guess then it goes up to the manager, however, but find out exactly what the expectation of the company is, and make sure that the human factor is in there. Make sure if it was you, you would understand, or you would basically say the same thing. Okay. I have an example listed here, and it's about a customer that walked into the bank. So a customer walked into the bank, and the customer was a little irate, of course, because the bank line was long, and they said it's government payday, they're on their lunch hour, they don't want to use their whole time standing on the bank line. And the customer just started cursing and carrying on and being loud on the bike. So of course the security approached them, and I said, no, just a minute, just come to the customer, come to the counter. So I came out my office, I came to the counter, and I said, ma'am, is there a problem? She explained it's a lunch hour, the line out the door, we need more tellers and whatever. And so even though she was not, the teller didn't do anything wrong, or the bank, I mean, yes, we should have had more staff, and the line should not be so long on just because it's a government payday. That is something that we should, plan for. As the manager, I apologize to her, right? Because I'm responsible for customer service in the branch. And so whatever experience a customer has, it falls on me. And so, the teller tried to explain. I said, no explanation required. This customer came into our branch, they had a bad experience. And so on behalf of the Royal Bank of Canada, I apologize for you coming in, having this bad experience. And if there's anything I could do to rectify, oh yeah, you don't need to get more tellers, you don't need to blah, blah. But I was able to calm her down. And sometimes it's not, I didn't say, but you could skip the line, or, we could make it go faster. But the mere fact that, I acknowledged her and I apologized. Okay, this is our fault because there's something wrong here. And, my job is to fix it. Okay. And a lot of times we take offense. A lot of times We say, oh, that customer come and curse me out, or that customer was rude to me, or whatever. Sometimes it really, the details don't matter. You have to look at, is this customer here? Are they truly, is their time, does their time matter? Did they have a bad experience here? Let's apologize and try to fix it, okay? And it doesn't have anything to do with the customer is always right. But just that you're providing a service, try to let it be the best service possible that you could give. And it ain't about right and wrong, because many times you may be right, but you still have to give up your right and just apologize, okay? And communicate is what you say and how you say it. I get to say, security, take this phone out this branch, correct? Or I gotta say, tell me your side of the story. Miss, that ain't how it happened. So try to avoid a conflict. Remember what you were there for. You were there to provide, and whatever the model says, lower the grade the customer. Be the customer's first choice. Okay, so we got to move away from defending ourselves when it ain't necessary. Okay, so let's go down to, do women and men communicate differently? Let's read that. Sydney?
Do men and women communicate differently? We know that leadership styles of men and women differ. So we can conclude that men and women communicate differently too. The answer is yes. Differences in communication styles between men and women may lead to some interesting insights. When men talk, they do so to emphasize status and independence, whereas women talk to create connection and intimacy. For instance, men frequently complain that women talk on and on about their problems. Women forever criticize men for not listening. That's happening. What's happening is that when a man hears a woman talking about a problem, he frequently asserts his desire for independence and control by providing solutions. Many women, in contrast, view conversing about a problem as a man's mean to promote closeness. The woman presents the problems to gain support and connection, not to get the male advice. Because effective communication between the sexes is important to all supervisors for meeting departmental goals, how can you manage differences in communication style to keep gender differences from becoming persistent barriers to effective communication? Requires acceptance, understanding, and a commitment to communicate adaptively across gender lines. Both men and women need to acknowledge there are differences in communication styles, that one style isn't better than the other, and that it takes real effort to talk with each other successfully. What do you think? Do men and women really communicate differently? What examples have you witnessed that would support your position?
Okay, very good, Sydney. So I want everybody else to give me some feedback. What do you think? Do men and women communicate differently? And some examples. Crystal?
My marriage. That's the example I can use. My husband, he is a different communicator than I am. And he comes more from a logical standpoint in mostly every conversation. And I tend to come more from the emotional side of it. So even in times of conflict, we use the same, it's the same thing. He's logical and I'm emotional. And so that's a water and oil.
But
Oh yeah.
isn't it balanced? Because he may be at one end and you're at the next. So doesn't that bring, when a decision is made, it doesn't bring balance?
What happens? It can, but usually, again, it like the book says, it speaks to the each side understanding that you're not the only way. So for me, it's more or less that coming to that realization. That's where we are now. So in some instances, when I come off on an emotional front, he come off on a logical front, and then I would have to take a step back and say, okay, like does this make sense? Like that's how I have to look at things. What I'm about to say, does that make sense? That's my emotional side. I'm turning into a logical side. And then for him on his logical side, he now have to think on an emotional side, knowing that, okay, if I come into Krista with this logically, but she's going to think about it emotionally. So let me try and reach her level. So it's more or less the approach we use when it comes to communication.
Okay, but at least you'll have the consideration for each other, not it has to be my way, or man, I'm the head, so you must listen. So at least y'all are hearing, and then it seems like I can meet you. It ain't gonna ever be 50-40, 70-30, or 60-40. I can meet you somewhere in the middle.
Yes.
Right? Okay, good.
Yep.
Okay, good. Renique?
Hi.
Hi, men and
Hi.
women communicate differently.
I agree, and I agree with Krista's example as well, because I am married. But for me, I feel like I am a bit more outspoken than my husband. So when you say what I say is how it goes, I think sometimes I could come off that way. And then I think sometimes for him, when I communicate, it may take him a bit longer to see it or to see my perspective. So it may be like a day later where he come back and, we rectify whatever we was communicating about.
Okay, well, that's good that you rectify it. In 24 hours ain't bad. You know what I mean? But always remember consideration. What I want somebody tell me is my way or the highway, or what I want them to bend. So I also feel like I have some so consideration. Okay, and Lanique, you manage or supervise both men and women, correct? Or just women?
No, just women. But
Okay.
I was gonna say, in relation to dealing with customers, I remember, okay, like let's say a male have an issue and he frustrated, and he may rile up. If I talk to him, because I remain calm and I explain, like he'll calm down much quicker than a female would when I deal with an irate female.
Correct.
Like it's like I could be calm talking just like this, and that female could think she can read into it or overthink that I must be trying to like undermine her or something like that. Right. And again, and it'll escalate. I remember I had a customer who she was very mad. It was our mistake. I apologized. And she she called me all kind of things. And when she was about to walk off, I said, okay, have a nice day. And because I said that, she went to my manager and reported me. And my manager called in the office, because, she didn't want to create any more of a scene, because she shouted me in front of everybody. And she said, it's because I said, have a nice day. Say the way I say it is like I wishing her death or something like that. I was like, I literally stand there. The woman shouted me. This was like in December. It was busy in the bank. And she shouted me, call me all kind of things, everything. Because I stand there with a smile and I look at her and I say, okay, you have a nice day too. Like
okay, but Lanique, let's talk about your body language. You didn't give her like
you can't see
you
my
won't do
body
up your
language.
hand, no type of gesture that would make this woman you feel you wish that on her.
Miss Paulette, okay, you know how the bank counter is. I show up, the counters reach me almost to my chest. So I have my hands like folded together on top of the counter. And all I do is I looking at her. That's what I mean. I just looking at her. And when she was about to walk off, I smile and say, yeah, you have a nice day too. Just like that. And she's gone in the manager office and tell the manager, I wish him harm. And now she feel threatened. She just
Lanique, you try to kill that woman.
Mom, it's full of these people. But if that was a man, he'd say, and he'd probably say, sweetie, and it ain't you, I just mad, that's what it is do, but that's man and woman.
Men are just more simpler. Like every confrontation, well, I don't want to say everyone, but most confrontations I had with men, I let them speak. And when I answer, I say yes, sir. No, sir. And
Mhm.
after that, they see that respect, they find like that just
Yeah.
works. You can't do that to a woman, yes, ma'am, or no, ma'am.
No,
No, they ain't saying that. But when men see that respect, that's it. You free. You won't do nothing wrong no more, and they ain't reporting you, and they ain't even making a complaint. I don't know
exactly.
why. I don't know why. But
I don't know
okay,
why that like that.
yeah, men just simpler to deal with than women. Okay, let's hear from our man of the hour, Robert. What's your take on this communication? Do we communicate differently?
Uh,
I can hear you, Robert.
can you hear me better now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, so I would say men and women communicate completely differently, just by the difference in tone. The way a woman may say something, it may not come off as if it's I guess it's a negative saying, but if a man was to do it, then it would, based on the customer as well, it would come off like you give an attitude or something of that sort. So certain things a woman can say, man can't say from a professional perspective. And then just as simple as I would say, like when you say when woman and man argue, you can't tell a woman they wrong. That's impossible. That's impossible to tell a woman she wrong. So sometimes you just gotta yield and say you right. And then when she calm down, maybe you can come with another approach and say, well, this is my side. And no woman and man is see the same side. A man and a woman always thinks differently. So they always have a different perspective on a situation. So that's my take on it.
Okay, good, Robert. Thank you for sharing. Okay, and
Right.
you completely right. Like culturally, I think the customers, I mean, they just have more respect for men than they have for women. And then, like Robert said, we just like the book says, men are from Mars and women are from Venus, or women from Venus and men are from Mars, and we just see things differently. Like Krista said, logic versus emotions, and that's why the Bible tells you to lean not on your own understanding, and so don't be so hard and fast about what your mind tells you, because even though you may feel right, you may have proof that you're right. Keeping the peace is more important than being right sometimes. Okay, so let's back down when we communicate. Go ahead, Lanique.
I just wanted to say too, using some like, okay, I've noticed too that people respond even at work. Like let's say they want a manager and the manager is a woman. And it's like some people is, well, some men I've seen, almost is like they don't expect it to be a woman. And so the way they'll speak to a woman manager is different than the way they'll speak to a male manager.
Correct, correct. It's like I said, they respect men more,
More,
and we
yeah,
still, most of us were raised by our grandparents, and our grandparents' era was, they married for economic reasons. The men went out to work, the women stayed home, and you had to be submissive and just respectful. And so there were no women in these positions, and so our grandmother and our grandfather instilled that to us. Now there are more women in these positions than men. And look at every class Ms. Bullis teach. 27 persons in there. I have 2 men, so it's always women now to the forefront of this corporate world, and people have not caught up with this change. Our grandmother's values are still in you know instilled in us, and so maybe in another 10 years.
we had a customer today who, an older gentleman, he had to get, it was an issue. And so we had to go into the manager's office, and she likes to have somebody in there, like a third party to hear. So he said, when he was talking to her, he said, you know what I mean? He said, I understand that you was the secretary at the bank, but I so upset right now. And I just was like, this the manager you talking to? Like you talking to the assistant manager operations? Like, what? And he kept calling her the secretary for the whole time he was in there. He never acknowledged her as being the manager.
Right. But
I was like, wow.
you wanted the fewest situations. So, like I say, always, whether it's right or wrong, whether you did something right or wrong, you are selling a product, a service, and that service is supposed to be top tier, a white glove service. And so if the customer has a bad experience, even if it's their fault, you be apologetic. Okay?
So you would correct him, Miss Bullet, or you'd
No,
leave him?
no, that's fine. One customer came in and kept calling me Annie. You know what I mean, Annie? So I guess sat there the whole time. I say, yeah, go ahead. I say Annie, no problem. So those things don't matter. You have to remember your purpose. We want to be the leader in financial services. We want to blow away the customer. And so you don't see these people every day. Appease
That's
them.
true.
Give up your right. Let them leave with coming back and say, when they lay down and they're 24 hours, they can say, boy, I was really you know what, in that bank today. Let me go back and apologize. And
That's
in
true.
fact, my neighbor who lived right around the corner from me, he's passed now. He used to say, Miss Bullet, before you became my neighbor, when I had nothing to do, I used to just dress up and say, let me go to the bank and catch some AC and drink some tea and mess with them people in the bank. So he used to purposely come there and like we was a part of his day. I said, really? Like, really?
Wow.
So he used to come there and just cause a problem. He said, all the time. Complain about the interest rate. He said, I had no valid problem. That's why when y'all tell me to put it in writing, I never did. I said, okay, interesting to know. Interesting to know. Okay. Yeah. Okay, guys. So the only thing I want to say about men and women, and because more women are here, with all these emotions, we end up on a roller coaster. And I always tell people, feelings is lie, because right now I feel this way, and I can feel that we all on the wrong track, and we can have an exam, everybody get 100%. Now I feel proud of everybody. Okay, so feelings for women or it's lie. So don't go with your first feeling. Wait that 24 hours to think through it indefinitely when you're mad. The next piece talks about written communication. Don't write, don't say anything. Try to just calm down and gather your thoughts so you can think straight. Okay. With communication, women talk a lot, and I sure y'all, the ladies in here might get handle it, but Sydney and Robert probably ready to throw a rock. Miss Bullet, please put a plug in it and move on, right? But Miss Bullet is talk a lot, okay? But men can't handle that, and so what happens is we go to work, we have a bad day because most of us go in hell. We need our full armor on each day whilst we at work. And then we go home and we tell our children and our husbands about this awful day that we had. They don't want to hear. They don't want to hear. Okay, so women have to vent. So find a girlfriend on your way home. And if you're driving home alone, not if your husband in the car, find a girlfriend, call that girlfriend on the phone, and you vent and she vent. And by the time you reach home, please don't talk about work no more. Because we have this habit of going home and all night. You wouldn't believe what Battle do with me. And the vote was right there, and Sydney ain't say nothing. All of them against me all night long. Okay? And I'm telling you this because Miss Bullet did it. Now my children are afraid to work in any bank because they say, Mommy, we never will go through what you've been through. It's like a horrid story for so many years. Okay, so ladies, be careful of that. Vent before you get home. Your home is supposed to be paradise. You are responsible to make it a home and create the ambiance. Please don't let Scotiabank and Royal Bank and all these different banks ruin your paradise from the negative communication we bring home every night. Once in a while, if you have a big issue and your husband can bear it, then share it with him. But please, not every night, not even every week. Once a quarter, you destroy the ambience, not and don't ever take it in your bedroom in the front room. This will happen today, honey, and let's get over it. But always create that positive atmosphere, and you'll see a big difference at home. Just nobody will hear a sad story every day. Okay? Okay. Okay, guys, very good. So the book goes on to talk about written communication. And before Sydney reads that, I think I told you all a story the other day where we had a service level agreement with, let's say, it was Scotiabank and the mail company. The people who deliver our mail was outsourced. And there was some issue, and the lady sat down writing a letter to the company that we had the mail outsourced to, all caps and in red. And she sent that to the CEO and the compliance and said, is there any legal issue in this, or should we add something else? Let me know your thoughts. And I couldn't even respond fast enough. The CEO said, I refuse to read this in bold and in caps and in red. Please do not ever send any correspondence on behalf of this bank to anybody, no matter what the situation is. Okay, so you wanna be careful of your email etiquette. Okay, another thing is you do not want to write an email when you're upset. But that's how, when I at work and I don't have nobody to talk to, I sit down and write an email to myself and vent. And then I wait like 2 days later and write the real email. Because the things what you say and the way you say things, like 2 days later, Miss Bullet is be shocked. Oh my God, I put that in writing. Oh my God. No, I couldn't say that. Okay. You want to always be diplomatic. So please don't write when you're angry. Please. Okay. And the last thing about written communication is you want to cover yourself in these institutions. You want a proper audit trail. So when there is indeed a conflict or something wrong with policy, you want to send out those emails. I noticed this gap in policy on this certain date. Please advise if there's a plan for correction or if there's a workaround. First response, first email, no response. Second request, no response. Third request, I leave this with my manager, but I print that out and I keep that in my little safe place at work, because now it's not only the managers and the compliance that could go to jail, everybody could go to jail. Ms. Bullet, you carry out this function every day and you know this was wrong, you know that there was an error in the system and you never ever documented it or said anything. See my little paper right here where I am only fit to advise them. I can't make them. So this is how I don't go to jail, or this is how I am not negligent if our company is infiltrated. Okay, that's how you use proper audit trail, and that's how you cover yourself. Okay, or if you have a conflict or with somebody, when you walk away, you write it. Please just confirm this is our action plan, and get them to accept it. You print that out. If you know this person wishy-washy and always changing what they say or what have you, yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Sydney. Why do we use written communication? Hi.
Sorry, before you start, Sydney, I wanted to ask a question.
Okay.
Today I sent an email to my manager and a director. Now I was doing it more or less like your personality, but hearing you talk, I wondering if okay, so the font was like a bright blue, but I mean it was readable. You know, the professional blue. I'll call it that. I don't know if you know.
Yeah, blue and black is fine, but not red.
And it was okay, that's fine. But it was bold. It was bolded because
Oh,
I
no.
felt like the writing was too light. And no, not all caps or nothing like that. Just the bolding of the font to make it more pop.
No,
Again,
that expresses attitude. The bold expresses attitude.
Okay, no. Okay, I didn't read that You know, I know like if it was black bold, I figured yeah. But it was
No,
just like
don't do any bold at all because it
it was
seems
just
like
like,
you're sending a strong message.
oh, well that
What-
email got sent. The
Okay,
message was generic, but it
okay,
was
and
mostly just to show
it's to
personality.
deal with an issue.
No, it was
Okay,
like stop saying an offer.
okay, but yeah, definitely don't do it when it's an issue.
Gotcha.
Okay, yeah, all right. Okay, go ahead, Sydney. And don't ever
Why?
do red. Don't ever do red or
Yes, ma'am.
caps. Yeah.
Why do you use written communication? When your message is intended to be official, if it has long-term implications or if it's highly complex, you'll want to convey it in a written form. Introductions of new procedures should be conveyed in writing so that there is permanent record to which all employees can refer. Providing a written summary of employee performance reviews helps reduce misunderstandings and creates a formal record of what was discussed. Departmental records that contain lots of metrics are best conveyed in writing because of their explicitity. The fact that written communications provide better documentation than the spoken word is both a plus and a minus. On the plus side, written documents provide a reliable paper trail for decisions or actions that are later called into question. They also reduce ambiguity for recipients. On the negative side, obsessive concern with documenting everything in writing leads to risk avoidance, decision paralysis, and creation of a high politicized work environment. At the extreme, tax accomplishment becomes subordinated to writing documents that cover your rear and make sure that no one person is held responsible for any questionable decision.
Okay, let's go on
Continue.
to electronic. Is electronic more efficient?
Computers, microchips, and digitalization are dramatically increasing a supervisor's communication options. Today, you can rely on a number of sophisticated electronic carrier communications. These include email, voicemail, electronic paging, cellular phones, video conferencing, modern voice transmissions, internet and intranet communication, and other forms of network-related communication. Whatever electronic media is selected, limited liability risk and improve the overall effectiveness of the organization's e-communications by requiring employees to use appropriate business-like language in emails and other electronic documents. Be sure to avoid the sharp all caps. Supervisors are increasingly using many of these technology advances. Email and voicemail allow people to transmit messages 24 hours a day. For important and complex communications, a permanent record of email messages can be obtained by merely printing out a hard copy. Cellular phones are dramatically changing the role of the telephone as a communication device. Previously, telephone numbers were attached to physical locations, but now the telephone number attached to mobile phones. You can be in constant contact with employees, supervisors, and key organizational members, regardless of where they are physically located. Networked communications allows you to monitor the work of employees whose jobs are done on computers and remote locations, to participate in electronic meetings, and to communicate with suppliers and customers in inter and intra organizational networks. What
Okay,
issues are created?
go ahead.
Continue.
Yeah, continue.
What issues are created by instant messaging and text messaging? A technology designed initially for conducting one-on-one personal chats has permitted the workplace. Many employees are choosing text-based instant messaging or IM over phone calls and email. IM is essentially the text version of a phone call, immediate, streamlined, and real time. It often serves as a backup for email problems.
Okay, and
Okay.
let me just interject that, Sydney, please, be careful of what you say over this instant messaging. A lot of companies are using it now, and let me let you know that the IT department is recording it. So please, please, all the little personals and all the things that you do across that, even on the telephone, everything can be tracked as compliance. We go into person's emails and we read like 3 months worth of emails. We listen to telephone calls and we definitely track that instant messaging. So please don't people have gone home for it. Okay, so be careful of that. Go ahead.
Okay. How well do you know the net go? If you received an email or text message with GFTD, gone for the day written in it, what would you what would you know what that meant? What about NSFW FYEO for your eyes only? By the way, or BIL, bosses listening. When an employee received an email at work from a friend with an attached slideshow titled Awkward Family Photos, she clicked through it and saw some pretty unusual, yes, awkward photos. Looking back at the email, that's when she also saw the abbreviation NSFW written at the bottom. Not knowing that, not knowing that
She
she
looked at
looked
the
the abbreviation
abbreviation.
She looked the abbreviation up on netlingo.com and verified it on internetslang.com websites and translate internet and texting abbreviations. Come to find out, she should have paid more attention to the abbreviation because NSFW stands for Not Safe for Work. Net text messaging shorthand is widespread in email, text messaging, and tweets, so people need to be aware of what it means. At many workplaces, a networking knowledge of NetLingo is becoming necessary as employees use social media sites such as Twitter and Facebook and even text messaging to communicate with colleagues and customers. The shorthand abbreviations are often necessary to stay within limit message length limits. However, the NSFW example showed not showing or even misunderstanding is lingo can lead to surprises, inappropriate responses, and miscommunications. IM benefits business that work in team or on projects because it enhances collaboration. Be aware, along with time and cost saving, there are risks and downsides to its use. Here are 10 IM do's and don'ts.
Just
Do.
read three.
Okay. Adopt a user policy containing at least general guidelines for IM between employees, customers, and business partners. Don't. Use IM to communicate confidential and sensitive information. Leave the IM for quick information about project status, meeting times, or person's whereabouts. Do. Organize your organize your contacts list to separate business contacts from family and friends to eliminate the possibility that a social contact could be included in a business chat with employees, customers, and personal partners. How does nonverbal communication affect your communication? Some of the most meaningful communication is not spoken, written, or transmitted on a computer. This is nonverbal communication. A loud siren or a red light at an intersection tells you something without words. When you are conducting a training session, you don't need words to tell you that employees are bored when their eyes get glassy or they fall asleep. Similarly, generally you can tell by body language, verbal and intonations, whether the boss is angry, upbeat, anxious, or distracted. Body language refers to gestures, facial configuration, and other movements of the body. Narrowed eyes, a clenched jaw, or a beet red face, for example, says something different from a smile. Hand motions, facial expressions, and other gestures can communicate emotions or temperaments such as aggression, fear, shyness, anger, joy, and arrogance.
Okay, so
Virgo,
let me interject right there, Sydney. Okay, so there are some studies, and the study isn't written down, but it says communication is 93% non-verbal cues and 7% words. Okay, so that there's a very large gap between the words and the non-verbal cues. So please be careful of the facial configuration, your movement, your jaw, your teeth, your face turning red. That sends the message faster than the words that you are saying. Okay, and let me just give you an example. I had a friend that worked to Baker's Bay in the Abacos for 27, 28 years, was gonna retire probably in another 5 years. And they brought in an expat to supervise them. And some of the courtesies that the former boss had extended to them were removed immediately, and a lot of changes were made. And one day he came across my friend and he was telling my friend to do something that my friend said would cause a problem. He said, well, I'm the new manager and we don't do it like that anymore. So my friend said, okay. He did it and it caused a minor explosion. Nobody got hurt. So immediately the guy said, see, I told you not to do that. You never listen, blah, 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 blah. And my friend said, you could have gotten us killed. And he said, I could have gotten us killed? You did that, not me. And so my friend said he was just stunned and he just looked at him. Just stared in disbelief that this guy was telling this, this lie. And the guy went to the office, reported the whole situation, and said that my friend attacked him with his eyes. After 27 years, they fired him for attacking a big black man, attacking a white man with his eyes. Okay? So please be very, very careful with these gestures. That's how serious it is. And they went through the labor board back and forth. Nothing came out of it. Years of following up and saying, really, I attacked him with my eyes because I'm black? Nothing came out of it. Okay? Go ahead, Sydney.
Verbal intonation refers to the emphasis one gives to words or phrases. To illustrate, consider the supervisor who asks a colleague a question. The colleague replies, what do you mean by that? The supervisor's reaction will vary depending on the tone of the colleague's response. A soft, smooth tone creates a different meaning from one that is abrasive and puts a strong emphasis on the last word. Most of us would view the first intonation as coming from someone who sincerely seeks clarification, whereas the second suggests that the person is aggressive or defensive. Because the nonverbal component is likely to carry the greatest impact, the fact that every oral communication also has a nonverbal message cannot be overemphasized. Most of us know that animals respond to how we say something rather than what we say. Apparently, people aren't much different.
Okay, so
What is
Glinton,
the
sorry, let's ask Glinton and Candace. What are their views about this non-verbal? What do you think about this story that you attacked me with your eyes? Is Clinton there? Is Candace there?
Yes, I am. You said the story about them attacking?
With his eyes.
Yeah, I can see how that's possible. I've been told that I have a way of doing that to people as well. Speaking with my eyes. So you have to be very mindful of facial expressions.
Okay, so you were working, so give us some tips, like what do you do now to control it? Because when I know this can make me turn pink, I just say, excuse me, I'll be right back. I go lock up in the bathroom for 5 minutes. and count to 50, and then I come back. Because I know I can't always hide it. So what do you do? What works for you now to control these eyes from rolling back and forth? And
Oh Lord, I still working on them.
yeah, but we, like I said, we to the
Sometimes
point now.
sometimes I just clock, well, my mind, I let my mind clock out the space for a minute.
Mhm.
And then I try to, contain myself, or I stop the conversation full stop to regroup myself.
Okay, so shut the computer right down. Sign
Yeah.
off. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, Robert, what about you? Robert, men have this problem, or no, you could control, you have that poker face.
Yeah, I would say men don't have that problem. I don't think man facially has changed as much because we don't get much, I guess, language to we don't get much sign languages or facial expression. It'd be more if a man give an expression, it'd be more of a confused face, confusion, but it wouldn't really be more in terms of an attitude.
Okay, what you think about this as a black man? You attack me with your eyes. What how you feel about that?
I don't understand how you could attack someone with your eyes. I guess, but your eyes can't really show an emotion. It's more the eyebrow, or you understand the face itself, but the eyes. That to me, I don't find that to be fair. That the gentleman got let go for attacking a white guy with his eyes. I look at that more on the racism side.
Yeah, but he said he was in a state of shock, and then he just stared him down. He did admit that I did stare him down, but really, I could attack him if I wanted to attack him.
Well, I mean, in the sense of, well, I don't think you could attack someone with your eye, but I guess, like for an intense view, if he eyes had to been wide open. That's all I could say. His eyes had to been wide open and not blink at all.
To lose your job after 27 years, yeah. It had to be,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that'd have been an aggressive look, but to lose your job over it,
How was that
boy,
proven? How was that proven after all
how
that
was that
time? That's what I
proven?
want to know. Yeah, how was it proven
I
that
guess camera.
it was?
If you can see his eyes through the camera, that means his eyes he was really open. So all I can say.
I don't know how they proved it, but the guy
Yeah.
said it, and
That's what I was saying.
my
Because
friend lost his job.
I'm trying to think, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's more who the customer was that take more weight than, than the actual situation. Just the fact that he
Yeah,
was
I
annoyed
feel
at
as if the
something.
customer had a lot of power within
No,
the
it wasn't a
institution
customer
itself.
now. It wasn't a customer. It was manager and staff. It
Mhm.
wasn't a customer.
So which one of them was
The white guy was a new manager. He'd only been there for a month.
And so
Well,
he didn't sue for wrongful dismissal. Like
He
so
did.
I
He
honestly
did
feel
go
as
to the
if
labor
the
board.
white gentleman had more power regardless. They let him in only for a month, and they had a manager there for 27 years, and you let go the manager for 27 years
No.
over
They let go the
a
staff.
manager for a month.
They let go the staff.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's a
The
staff.
staff.
Oh, the staff was there for
Mhm.
27 years, not the
Yeah.
manager. The
Yeah.
manager was the white guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
so
a
that's
profiling
even worse.
situation.
Because
Yeah, and I'm
now,
thinking that he could sue for wrongful dismissal for sure,
yeah,
because you
because
know way
now
you
he
could
didn't
prove
even
that.
have power to really. He didn't even have. He didn't have any say. Because once a manager says something, that holds more power and entitlement. Then just stop.
Yeah, but still, I don't. Perhaps they should have moved him to another department, but
Yeah,
nothing
I would
came out of
recommend
that.
transfer.
Yeah.
I would have recommended transfer,
Yeah,
but
it took 2 years, and then Hurricane Dorian happened and blew the whole island away. So then the case just dropped after that. So yeah,
that's Baker's way.
wow.
I'm not surprised. So
yeah.
I'm not surprised either. But in the Bahamas, I don't foresee that should not still be happening. I don't foresee that.
I was in Abaco. That's the
This is in
Bahamas.
Abaco. Oh, I can see that happening in Abaco. Yeah, I can see that happening.
Not
in Abaco.
Nassau, not
Not
Nassau.
NASA. I can't see that happening in NASA. Abaco,
Robert,
yeah,
stop.
man.
Man,
What?
that's prosperous either way. Not so all apical. And that man
Yeah.
shouldn't have been fired. I feel as if they really do him dirty. They should have given him another avenue.
Yeah.
I don't know
I'm
if
not
he
saying
had.
it's fair. I'm just saying I could see it happening in Abaco. Not saying that it's right. I just could see it happening. Not
Yeah.
like yeah.
Yeah, I always say, like, when you hire people, you make an investment. So this high turnover thing, no, Miss Fuller is like, listen, me and you probably just don't click, or let me send you to another department or whatever, and maybe you'll do well over there. But your first instinct shouldn't be to, I can let this person go, especially when they've invested so many years to the company. So let's send him to another department. Let's see if he works better with somebody else or something to that effect, you know, but not take it with this bread and butter over foolishness. Right? Okay, so good discussion. Okay, next, should be a very provocative discussion, and then we'll hear from Candace, the grapevine. So the grapevine can spread the truth just as fast as it can spread aroma. So, you know, all grapevines are not bad. So let's read Sydney and tell us how we could use this grapevine to our benefit.
Okay, what is the grapevine? The grapevine is active in almost all organizations. In fact, studies typically find that the grapevine is the means of communicating by which most operative employees first hear about things, important changes introduced by organizational leaders. It rates ahead of all other formal sources. Is the information that flows along the grapevine accurate? Sometimes, by accuracy aside, it's important to consider the conditions that foster an active grapevine. Rumors have at least four purposes: to structure and reduce anxiety, to make sense of limited or fragmented information, to serve as a vehicle to organize group members and possibly outsiders into coalitions, and to signal a sender status. I'm an insider and you're not, or power. I have the power to make you an insider. Studies have found that rumors emerge in response to situations that are important to us, where there is ambiguity or under conditions that arouse anxiety. Work situations frequently contain these three elements. What's why rumors flourish, and that's why rumors flourish in organizations. The secrecy and competition that typically prevail in large organizations around such issues as important as appointment of new bosses, relocation of offices, realignment of work assignments, and layoffs create conditions that encourage and sustain rumors on the grapevine. A rumor will persist either until the wants and expectations creating the uncertainty underlying the rumor are fulfilled, or until the anxiety is reduced. We can conclude that the grapevine is an important part of any group or organization's communication system and well worth understanding. Moreover, it's never going to be eliminated, so supervisors should use it in beneficial ways. Given that only small set of employees typically passes information to more than one other person, you can analyze grapevine information and predict its flow. Certain messages are likely to follow predictable patterns. Consider using the grapevine informally to transmit information to specific individuals by planting messages with key people who are active on the grapevine and are likely to find a given message worthy of passing on. The grapevine is also valuable for identifying issues that employees consider important and that create anxiety amongst them. It acts as both a filter and a feedback that employees want pass. Sorry. It acts as both a filter and a feedback mechanism, picking up issues that employees consider relevant and planting messages that employees want passed on to those running the organization. For instance, if the grapevine is hopping with a rumor of a mass layoff, and if you want the rumor, and if you know the rumor is totally false, the message still has meaning. It reflects the fears and concerns of employees and hence should not be ignored. Electronic communication is affecting everything, and the grapevine is no exception. Corporate blogs are reshaping the grapevine. Blogs are used internally to disseminate information to employees or externally to aid in marketing and public relations. Corporate blogs are being used to reach corporate goals. Blogs display information in reverse chronological order, allowing participants to ask questions, make comments, and receive comments from a variety of sources in logical, evolving fashion, similar to an ongoing conversation around the water cooler. Because the blog is available to a wider audience, Many organizations institute a code of ethics that is applied to all postings. Internal blogs allow individuals in multiple locations and time zones to participate in discussions of concern to employees and management so that the blog becomes an electronic grapevine.
Okay, so let's make sure that we are at the right end of this grapevine, okay? Because a lot of people hate coming to work because of the grapevine and how toxic it is. A lot of people feel like they have to choose sides. A lot of people feel like if you're in a certain clique, you don't move up, you don't know what's going on, and you don't get the good bonuses. Okay, let's make sure that we are not the toxic people at work, that some people even suicidal about the way they are treated at work. Okay, so please let's use this grapevine for positive information and to uplift each other, and it just takes each of us being committed to, we don't care what happened to Lynette this week. Okay, we just happy that she do work and she doing good. Her personal business, this ain't what we here for, you know. And if somebody stands up and says that, you will probably be ostracized, right? But more people who are ethical, you'll find that they may be afraid to speak up, but they will be in support of it. Okay, so it just takes each of us to start. Candace, tell me about your grapevine. Tell me about your experience. Do you feel that it could be used for beneficial purposes?
Yes. I mean, not necessarily. It depends, because in my company, I know, like, for example, if something is going on, 100% of the time, if somebody talking about something that's going on, it's usually true. I rarely had an incident where somebody said something and the information was taken out of proportion and stuff like that. And then our company usually keeps everyone in the loop of everything that is going on, which is one of the things that I like. And I see they say something about blogs. We use that too, and then we have bank newsletters and stuff like that that they circulate around the different branches, so we are up to date with everything.
Okay, so you are using it for the right reason, but we
Yes,
talking about
ma'am.
the informal grapevine where we talking people business and their personal business. All the Nikki and been away for a whole week. What you think happened to her? I hear this and I hear that.
And that goes back to me saying, when you hear somebody say something, it's actually 100% true, because they
Yeah,
is
but
talk
should
everywhere.
you be discussing it at work? Should you
I
be?
don't think so at all. I don't agree with that. But
Okay.
it happens all the time, and I'm sure some people usually feel uncomfortable, because at the end of the day, if they say something to a manager or a supervisor, I'm sure it's with confidence that they said it, because it's supposed to be confidential. But
Yeah.
child, Miss Bullard, it
But
don't
we
be like that
gotta-
all the time.
Yeah, but we gotta stop normalizing these things that hurt people deeply, that cause people to become suicidal, that make them hate their job because people are talking about them, you know. And I normally say that everybody talks about everybody, but everybody isn't malicious, you know. Some people say, well, Linique was off, can we collect some money? She has to have a surgery, or she has to, you know, go attend doctor. Let's collect something to buy her flower. Let's collect something to make a donation to her, you know, whatever it is she's dealing with. You know, not let's tear her down and I wonder what she going to the doctor for. In fact, we had the same HR lady who, when I remember, I tell you, when I clean out the stationery room, we used to pay the people for supplies to clean, and we had a case of bleach and a case of this and vinegar and all kind of stuff that they was taking home. Right? That same lady on your national insurance form, you know, Royal Bank would say, we would pay you, we don't want to cut your salary if you were sick. And we know how long the government takes. So you go and apply for your NID and we will just, you reimburse us for the check. So that was a courtesy that Royal Bank offered to the staff. So along with that courtesy, she said she's going to extend that courtesy, and you could just bring the form into her, and she will hop in her car and she'll drive down to the NIB and put the form in for you. And everybody was like, oh, wow, that's very nice. And so for years she did that. And then one particular lady said, but my condition that I don't want to discuss with my employer is on that form. So I will put in my own form. And if that means I can't, Royal has to cut my check, then let them cut it. I'll wait for my check. So she then tells her that it's mandatory that she brings it in and let her take it to, and so again, they came to me and I said, no, it's not mandatory because I do agree your personal business is done. Your salary will not be cut. Oh, she must have AIDS. And again, that's what she was doing. Always trying to find out what condition the person had, what was wrong. And people personal business, child, don't say I say, but it says she need this medication and this medication for STD. What that have to do with your employer? Okay, so be mindful of these HR people who come across as wanting to help. If they truly are confidential, find out. And like I said, there's always a knowledge person in your institution who you could go to and ask for help. But please, y'all don't practice these toxic traits. Because when we talk about the grapevine and how vicious corporate Bahamas is, we are corporate Bahamas. We make up this grapevine. Okay, we have to stop normalizing these very bad behaviors that have been in the system for very long. Ain't nothing we could do about it. Yes, we could stop. Each one of us could commit to stop and commit all the people in affect to stop. Okay? Okay. Page 278, how does honesty affect communication? And then after that, we will just go to, and this is another positive, very common question on the exam. How do we give feedback? And that's on 283. So first 278, how does honesty affect communication? And then we will end with how do you give effective feedback on 283. Go ahead, Sydney.
How does honesty affect communication?
Yes.
Okay. A good deal of what passes as poor communication is nothing other than individuals purposely avoiding honesty and openness to avoid confrontation. To avoid confrontations and hurting our feelings, we frequently engage in practices such as conveying ambiguous messages, saying what we think others want to hear, or cutting off communication altogether. Some people run from confrontation. They want everyone to like them. As such, they avoid communicating any messages they think might be displeasing to the receiver. What they end up doing is increasing tension and further hindering effective communication. How the receiver feels at the time of receipt of the message will influence how they interpret it. The same message received when they are angry or distraught is likely to be interpreted differently when you are in a neutral disposition. Extreme emotions such as jubilation or depression are most likely to hinder effective communication. In such instances, we are most prone to disregard our rational and objective thinking processes and substitute emotional judgment. There are also the times we are most likely to use inflammatory words or language that we later regret.
Okay, so do away with this. Everybody must like you. And like I say, we do live in this world where if you tell the truth, you're normal, and you are ostracized. So, in the end, we all have to answer to God. We are only human beings. I think we have too much of a high expectation, like I said, of sinners. Whatever you practice, you become. If you practice lying, then you become pathological. And it's very hard to keep up with the lies. You tell one lie, you have to make another one up and another one. So just don't practice it. Just like when we were 14 and 15 and we wanted to drive, we practice, and now we are expert drivers in our 20s. If we did that with lying, we would be pathological by the time we are 20. Okay, so be very careful what you practice. and be very careful about these emotions of wanting to be liked and untruthful. You may be popular, but in the end, you have a bunch of unethical people around you.
So,
Okay?
I have a
So
question, right?
go ahead,
Regarding
Robert.
lies, right? Just not saying that this should be a practice or this should be the norm, right? But let's just say you happen to have a slow morning or a slump morning where you just ain't interested in getting up or you don't want to go to work that day or something of that sort. But you know, within yourself, you can't just tell your manager or your supervisor you late because and you don't have a valid reason or of being late. So in the case of that, you think it's right to be, or you think it should be good enough to be honest and just say I don't feel like coming to work?
No, no. Remember now to be diplomatic in all your responses. I guess you
Yeah,
should be honest. There's something called family responsibility leave, correct?
yeah.
I would
This is
ask for one of those dates because they don't have to be prearranged. And there's something that called flexibility. I'll ask if I could just come in and work, the evening. I'll come in at 12 and stay. I have something to deal with. Or I would say, now that we know that burnt out is a medical condition,
mm,
and you could actually go to the doctor and just say, I'm burnt out. You go through these periods. We are human beings. It's
yeah,
been the whole year. What makes it wrong is when this happening every week or
yeah,
once a month you
yeah,
call in because you're going out.
yeah,
Yeah. So if it ain't excessive, Robert, and you have an open-minded manager, I
yeah.
had people call me and say, Miss Bullet, me and my husband fight all night. I sleep a wink. I say, I can see you tomorrow. Or could you turn on your computer? I need you to approve one or two things if it was possible. Or I at least need you to pop in, But if you give me enough time that I can get coverage in an area where you're gonna be,
Yeah,
then I appreciate that honesty up front. Don't leave me
yeah.
hanging.
Which is understandable.
Yeah, too much people is just leave you hanging. And
Yeah,
I always use that example of Candace. It was Candace week to read. Candace was gonna be late. She sent me an email, Miss Bullard. I'm not gonna be the class until this time. If you need to get somebody else to read, then I'd appreciate that. If not, I'll be at this hour. And so I could have prepared until she got in, and she got in right in time. So that's where you have appreciation. I consider her to be a very responsible person just by that little small gesture. She could have just not showed up. Okay, I've had people where each department plans a huddle, and we go out and say this could be our topic. It's 4 of us, and we ready to present to the staff. We even bring in breakfast, and 3 of them ain't show up. So
wow.
here it is. I'm the one that brought the donuts. I now have to stop the supervise you and get drinks. And then when I look, they say one said I was to be running with the drinks. I said I'll just buy the drinks, bought the drinks and the donuts. When I there, I standing up because I wasn't the person to read. I standing up talking off the top of my head like a fool. And luckily, they tried to sabotage me. But luckily, Miss Bullis talk a lot and go south. And so I just started talking out of my head, but it made sense.
They start talking in your head and it made sense.
It made sense. People resonated with it. And they said, Miss Bullet, I was an auditor at that time. And they said, Miss Bullet, it's very good to see that you have the human factor and that you actually care about us. Because a lot of times we just feel like you're the police and you come to write us up and we could possibly lose our job. So we are unfair when we see you. But it's good. I think I talked about mental health or something to that effect. And, I said, if you need help, and then I always say, enjoy yourself, take a break and stuff like that. And they thanked me. And I was like, wow, if these people know these other people sabotage me. This isn't even the full breakfast that we put money in to bring for everybody. And I just went with it. And then half an hour later, when everything over, they walk in apologizing. And then again, the grapevine. So how did it go? She messed up. Hey, what she talk about? And they dared to say, oh, that wasn't even our
Oh,
topic.
so it was an intentional
Yes,
sabotage, not even
yes,
accidental. This was an intent.
yes.
Wow.
And they was like, that wasn't even our topic. We was supposed to talk about such and such. Till I just walk away from them people. I was like, yeah, whatever it was supposed to be, it wasn't. It was great though. Thank you. And move on. Okay, so people are out there, they will attack you, they are lurking. But like I always tell everybody, you show up the only way. This is a very evil world. You show up like you work for the Lord every day and you'll be fine. Anything else, you have a problem every day. Okay? So 283 and we'll end there. How do you give effective feedback? Go ahead, Sydney.
We have 6 specific suggestions to help you become more effective in providing feedback. We discussed them here and summarized them in Exhibit 10-5. Focus on specific behaviors. Feedback should be specific rather than general. Avoid such statements as, you have a bad attitude, or I'm really impressed with the good job you did. They're vague, and although they provide information, they don't tell the receiver enough to correct the bad attitude or to know on what basis we concluded that a good job has been done, so that the person knows what behaviors to repeat. Keep feedback impersonal. Feedback, particularly for improvement, should be descriptive rather than judgmental or evaluative. No matter how upset you are, keep the feedback focused on job-related behaviors and never criticize someone personally because of an inappropriate action. Telling people they're incompetent, lazy, or the like is almost always counterproductive. It provokes such an emotional reaction that the performance deviation itself is apt to be overlooked. When you're criticizing, remember that you're censoring job related behavior, not the person. You might be tempted to tell someone they are rude or insensitive, which might be just true. However, that's hardly impersonal. It's better to say something more specific, such as, you've interrupted me 3 times with questions that weren't urgent when you knew I was talking long distance to a customer in Brazil. Keep feedback goal oriented. Feedback should not be given primarily to dump or unload on another person. If you have to provide feedback for improvement, make sure it's directed towards the receiver's goals. Ask yourself whom the feedback is supposed to help. If the answer is essentially you, I've got something I just want to get off my chest, why should someone hold the comment? Such feedback undermines your credibility and lessens the meaning and influences of future feedback sessions. Make feedback well timed. Feedback is most meaningful to a receiver when there is a short interval between their behavior and the receipt of feedback about the behavior. For example, a new employee who makes a mistake is more likely to respond suggestions. Sorry. For example, a new employee who makes a mistake is more likely to respond to suggestions for improving right after the mistake or at the end of the workday, rather than during the performance review session 6 months later. If you have to spend time recreating a situation or refreshing someone's memory of it, the feedback you're providing is likely to be ineffective. Moreover, if you're particularly concerned with changing behavior, delays in providing timely feedback on the undesirable action lessens the likelihood that the feedback will be effective in bringing about the desired change. Of course, making feedback prompt merely for promptness sake can backfire if you have insufficient information or if you're otherwise emotionally upset. In such instances, well-timed could mean somewhat delayed. In short, understanding. Is your feedback concise and complete enough that the receiver clearly and fully understands your communication? Remember that every successful communication requires both transference and understanding of meaning. If feedback is to be effective, you need to ensure that the receiver understands it. Consistent with your discussion of listening techniques, you should have the receiver rephrase the content of your feedback to find out whether it's fully captured the meaning you intended. Direct feedback for improvement. Feedback for improvement should be directed towards behavior the receiver can do something about. There's little value in reminding a person of some shortcoming over which they have no control. For instance, to criticize an employee who is late for work because she forgot to set her alarm is valid. To criticize her for being late for work when the subway she takes to work every day had a power failure, driving her for 90 minutes is pointless. There's nothing she could have done to correct what happened. Short of finding short of finding a different means of traveling to work, which may be unrealistic. In addition, when feedback for improvement is given concerning something that the receiver can control, it might be a good idea to indicate specifically what can be done to improve the situation. This takes some time. This takes some of the sting out of the criticism and offers guidance to employees who understand the problem but don't know how to resolve it.
Okay, very good. Beneath, what are your thoughts about feedback? You who always have to be right. Beneath?
I for me, I feel like once I calm down, like and I take a moment to process, I am very receptive of feedback.
Okay,
Um,
so make sure you don't give, you have to be like Miss Bullet. Sometimes I'd be like, let me get back to you in a week. Because that's how long it is take me to replay and overthink and all these situations in my mind. And trust me, even 24 hours later, I have a completely different response. So,
yeah, sometimes it'll be like, okay, Vinny, you over exaggerated, or
yeah.
you could have handled it this way. So
Yeah. So let's take that break. Let's take that 24-hour break to think clearly and to have a better response. Okay, and make sure that it ain't just emotions that we offloading on this person. Okay, and practice at home. Once you practice at home, then you practice at home. Okay. Okay.
yes.
Any questions or concerns? Anything out of chapter 10 you want to talk about?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
What directly we need to focus on in chapter 10 so I could go over it and enhance and get more full details of the chapter to focus on for the final, because I know for sure that
Well, that feedback question is definitely a popular on the final.
okay, so I can highlight that for sure. But it's good to, I would say it's good to have some pointers on which part of the top chapters is going to be utilized. This is a lot to read and a lot to remember. So
yeah, and so I normally cover most of what we can test you on. So you got some homework. Let me pull back up the agenda so you will see we got some homework where you may get some of these questions, and if you persons normally do good on the homework, and so we don't have to put it on the final exam. So that homework is on November the 16th.
Okay, so whatever goes on the homework doesn't go on the final.
That'll be on chapters 10 and 5. Right? But like I said, that feedback question is very popular, as well as the communication process.
Yeah, okay.
And then honesty.
So honesty, feedback, and then the communication process.
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Paula, I have a question.
Yeah.
Regarding the information. Now we did that exam. Information was a lot to absorb, yes. So my question is, for the final, do we have to, I guess, bring back all of that information again, or will this next part of the exam will be testing on now? These chapters we're going over now.
Yeah, that's how it works. So let me bring back up for the final, you will only have from 10, 5, 6, 2, and 7.
No, nothing from the past. Only those we could look forward to.
Yeah. Okay. Now next week, we're going to discuss the midterm, and based on the most answered wrong question, you may see a repeat of that. But I will let you know when we have the review on December 6th. And so just how we had a review and we did a review sheet, I will put that back. But you should only expect from 10, 5, 6, 2, and 7 for the final, and some questions on mentoring.
Hey, can I speak about something about the exam? Because I think of one or two persons that
Not
I'm
yeah,
thinking is
yeah, next week. We can't speak
Okay,
about it this
okay.
week, next week.
okay,
So
because I really
please
want
hold
to
it.
say something so bad, but okay,
Yeah, please next week, and then y'all can let it all out.
okay,
Okay, thanks a lot.
all righty.
Okay, guys, so any other questions or concerns?
No, so next week, I know you said you needed volunteer. I know Sydney read this week.
Right,
So
so
in
you'll do
regards
chapter
to the next
5.
chapter, well, so I'll go with chapter 5 before next week, so I could at least have some overall understanding of I'll be reading it.
Okay,
Do we
good.
get our
Thank you for
exam
that.
papers back?
That's a good question too. Yes, I love that question. I didn't want
No, but if you want to see it, you could make an appointment with Miss Dean at the institute, and she'll go over it with you.
to. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Um,
every get it,
that's-
every view it. But I guess yeah, okay, which is understandable. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't walk away with the paper.
No, that's
Yeah.
why I said disregard. I gonna ask if we can take a picture, but that's still the same thing.
No, yeah. So you could sit there with her, and she'll go through it and call me in on a conference if needed. You'd have to make an appointment to do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't have the time for that. I mean, but I wouldn't say I don't have the time for it, but
Robert, you have complaints. You anyway. I could deal with you
no,
next
I
week.
have no complaints. I want to
Okay.
just see it. I want to see where I got what I need to focus on more, or what I need to look at more. 'Cause
but Robert
although-
ain't bringing those questions back no more. Now you gotta focus on
which is
these chapters.
understandable, but at the same
Water
time,
under the
you should
bridge,
still
bro.
nope, because you should still take everything we learn into our role. So
Right.
Okay.
And for the most part, persons didn't do good on the multiple choice or the essay, the final essay. They
Well,
got
that essay is
for the
20
short
points, I'm
answer,
surprised.
full points for the short answer. But
yeah,
it was the essay and the multiple choice where I was very surprised.
yeah, that last 20-point essay.
Yeah. Some
From
of
I
y'all
see
give
20
me,
points.
5 lines, 1 paragraph.
From I
So,
see 20 points, I say, wow, this
Yeah.
is crazy. And I think at that
But-
point, I think that should have been
She
the
always
first
said it was
question.
20 points, Robert.
I
She always
said
do
that, and on the review sheet, it was there. And I
No,
said,
no,
everybody
not
give
that.
me.
I look at that question last. I was done dreaming. I was like, okay, it was just, I wish I had to do that question first. That's just my to do. I wish I had to do that question first.
Right. And that's what you do. You do the easiest question for you. So
Yeah.
if you run out of time or whatever, you just have to write your name on every page and label it properly. Well, some people did that. But yeah, always pick, if you think this one will overwhelm you, get it out of the way first. So that's the most points. Let me get that out of the way in case I get confused with these other stuff.
Yeah, that's what I should have done.
Yeah.
I went through that last, and that was it.
Yeah, you was blow by time as you get to that. Yeah.
I say, okay.
Okay, so next week we'll go into full detail with it. Okay.
All right.
Okay,
Okay,
guys.
thank you.
Y'all have a
All right,
good
enjoy the rest of your night.
evening. Yes, and have a productive week, and take care of yourselves.
All right.
And communicate effectively.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Okay, take care.
Bye.
Okay,
Alrighty, good night.
good night.